Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, back for another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And as always, to do this show, I need the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman, Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing?
Good, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Like I told you off air, it's February, and just trying to make the most of February before we get to near potential of spring, because we know we have 6 more weeks of winter now.
I don't really. For me, it's January, February, March is all winter, and no matter what, I don't even think of spring until at least April, and even April usually we get hit again with snow. But yeah, February is I don't know. It's not really like a exciting month. You know what I mean?
As Valentine's Day, I guess, but depending if you do anything with your partner.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's a Hallmark,
Yeah.
money grab type of thing. But yeah, for sure, it's good.
Does also February now also has the Super Bowl later than ever, but we know you don't really care about football, but maybe you'll tune in on Sunday.
There's a football game. I just watched on a badass concert.
Yeah, well, the halftime show is going to be something I think everyone's very excited for, just to see how it goes down. Like the hype going into this halftime show of like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, and Mary J. and Kendrick Lamar. Like this is probably the best one I'm excited for going into it.
Dude, it's like 3/5 of the 2001 Up in Smoke tour, which was the best. Yeah, Dre, Snoop, and Eminem, the Mary J. Blige, and that. What's the other guy's name?
Kendrick Lamar.
I don't really know a lot of his stuff, so he's more new age. But yeah, those three alone, awesome.
Kendrick Lamar is someone you would like. I can just tell you that. He's newer, but he's actually really solid and good, and actually raps about issues and not just auto-tune stuff. So he's someone you can get into. Yeah, he's not a mumble guy. He's someone you can get into. So that should be a well worth halftime show. And I've been telling people this. Do you think they pull out the Tupac hologram for this?
Ooh, that'd be cool, eh? I could see that.
California Love? Come on, you gotta do it.
Love or Gangster Party or something like that. Yeah. California Love would be dope. Yeah.
It's like for sure for California Love if you do that. I don't think we're playing Gangster Party at the NFL event, but have to do it for if you do California Love, you kind of got to do it. You're the NFL. Go all out.
Or do they just go crazy and do 2 holograms of Tupac and Biggie?
That'd be wild. Don't know if Biggie fits too much into the West Side kind of thing, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just excited to see what they do. And if you are a football fan, the game does seem very entertaining this Sunday with the Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. But we're not here to talk about football, Josh. We're here to talk about the realm of mixed martial arts, and the UFC. They start their long stretch now of 8 weeks of events, starting with this past weekend's UFC Vegas 47 show, which featured, as we talked about last week, a very pivotal fight in the middleweight division with Sean Strickland taking on Jack the Joker Hermanson. And you know what? I thought for a fight, as you said, Josh, Jack Hermanson's key to success would be getting this fight to the ground, and he couldn't. He tried 8 takedown attempts. All 8 were stuffed by Sean Strickland. And Sean Strickland, cruised to what should have been a unanimous decision victory. It was a split decision. One judge gave the fight to Jack Hermanson, which I have no idea how you could even remotely closely give Jack Hermanson that 3 rounds, like only one maybe, but it was a split decision. The worst scorecards we've seen since that 48-47 Felder in the Dos Anjos fight a couple years ago. But all in all, I thought Sean Strickland, Josh, this is a guy that he may say some weird, outlandish things. He's kind of become a character, but really has evolved as a true, complete mixed martial artist.
Yeah, no, he's good, man. I would saying he's very skilled for a while. It was basically jab won him the fight, really. Jab and that keeping that forward pressure, always coming forward, and that pace on the guys. And he's just very, very calm in there, right? He even said in this one he's a little bit too calm, a little too cautious. He felt he could have unloaded a little bit more, maybe got a finish or whatnot. But yeah, man, he looked good. Hermansson, man, the first round, I probably say he would have won it. It was close, but I gave him that. And then after that, it was all Strickland. But yeah, his takedowns, he did not set them up well. And he also just, engage in the clinch a bit more. You can punch your way into a clinch and then try to work the takedowns from there instead of just trying to shoot from outside. And yeah, he just looked like he wasn't bringing his feet with him at all. And he looked very uncomfortable on the feet, very uncomfortable.
Yeah, he just couldn't find any key success. And, people said that, on social media and whatever, this fight was boring. And I know Sean Strickland apologized for his performance. But I don't think you need to apologize. Look, maybe sometimes you're not going to get an entertaining fight. And we've touched on this before, but Sean Strickland did what he had to do. He managed to stuff the takedowns, avoid Jack Hermansson for getting the fight to the way he wanted the fight to go, and just showcased, the striking as much as he needed to be. As you said, the jab pretty much won him the fight. It did. And you don't always need to go into these blood and guts type fights because you want to keep longevity in your career. Sometimes you got to have a fight like that.
Yeah, I agree totally. And, if it isn't broken, don't change it. If it's working for you and he's not making adjustments to your opponent, then keep going, man. If I'm going to kick a guy in the leg and he's not going to check, I'm just going to keep kicking him in the leg until he makes an adjustment, and then I got to move on to the next, stage and the next setup. But yeah, man, just keep doing what you're doing. If it's winning you the fight, keep it going, and that's exactly what he did. So yeah, there's no fault or blame in there. Was it the most exciting fight? No, but it was still very technical, and he stuck to his game plan, and he continued to win every round after the first.
And that he did. And I guess before we move on to, what's next for Strickland, because this was a big win, especially with a pay-per-view coming up this weekend, which is pretty much centered around that middleweight division with Adesanya defending against Whittaker on that card, and as well Jared Cannanier, Derrick Brunson. They have some fights coming up as well. So middleweight's getting interesting. So I think Sean Strickland puts himself in the right place. But and we kind of touched on this, the Sal D'Amato 48-47 Jack Hermansson card. We've said it before, Josh, but I don't think judging's getting any better. And maybe they need to take up your offer of 5 judges if we're going to use this 10-point must system.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's what I mean. What if, I don't know, obviously he was the bonehead there, but what if there was one more of those guys, and then everybody else is seeing this fight, you could give it 49-46 for sure, but nothing more than that. You know what I mean? So where this guy saw him winning 3 rounds, Jack, is just crazy to me, and I think most people. So yeah, the more judges, the less chance of error, or the less chance of the error being, affecting the fighter is win, right? So yeah, I think at least 5 judges.
At least 5 judges, or I think this one would have been very interesting with open scoring, because if you're hearing that scorecard, you're not only looking at the judge, what the hell are you, what are you seeing? Does he get a talking to from the commission? Because there's no way some of those rounds should have been tabulated in the favor of Jack Hermansson. Hell, I don't even think Jack Hermansson thinks he won that fight, let alone a judge giving him the rounds. So I don't know. Maybe sometimes these older judges, they really need a refresher course or a new breed of judges to come on in, because that is just embarrassing. And thankfully, 2 other judges were watching the fight.
Yeah, I think so. We've said it. I think 5 judges. And if we're going to stick to the rounds, then we should, after every round, hold up the red or blue. And so everybody knows where we're at. And you're kind of held accountable for, you're what the hell this guy scored for? I got, you know what I mean? So again, it's not a position that I would want to be in judging. I wouldn't want to do it, but if you're going to do it, then you got to do it right. And people got to be kind of educated on what they're watching, because this is people's careers and livelihoods at stake.
Yeah, and it just felt like Sal D'Amato was just either asleep and just guessing and putting 10s and 9s where they need to be just to fill out the scorecards, because as we said, there's no way Jack Hermansson could have even remotely come close to winning that fight. No. He did on that scorecard, but and as well, if you're Nevada, this is a highly touted commission. You can't have horrendous judging like that for a commission that a lot of people kind of try to base how to run their commission off of what Nevada does.
Yeah, it's, the fight capital of the world, basically. You know what I mean? That's where majority of fights happen, are in Vegas. So you would think that the commission there would be so finely tuned and so knowledgeable of the sport, but idiots everywhere, man.
Idiots everywhere, indeed. Well, thankfully, at least two of the judges gave the fight 49-46 to Sean Strickland. And then that brings us to now Sean Strickland, where he's really put himself in this interesting spot here in the middleweight division. As we said, there's a title fight coming up this weekend. Adesanya and Robert Whittaker, 2. Jared Cannanier, Derek Brunson also on this card. So middleweight, all of a sudden here in February, starting to heat up. And maybe it wasn't the most impressive performance, but it's a win over a real durable guy. And not only to make it look that easy against someone how good Jack Hermansson is, I think we have to kind of put at least Hermansson in that bubble of close getting a title shot.
Yeah, for sure. I think if he wins one more big one, he'll probably get a shot. Whether that's the winner of Cannanier and Brunson, maybe, or something along those lines. But yeah, I don't quite think it's like a title shot yet, but he'd be right up there in the top 3, 4, 5.
He'd be a very interesting character in that division, especially with pretty much all his comments. Anytime that guy's on the microphone, he's literally just willing to say whatever comes out of his mouth. Not even a thought, just says whatever, or kind of like joking with the media, but like fat shaming some of them, or making a lot of homophobic comments. So a very weird kind of guy, but one that's truthfully and honest. And I'm not sure how to take him when he makes those comments, though.
We talked about before. The only issue, what he was talking about was like that I didn't like was the trying to kill a guy in the ring or be the first person to kill a guy in the cage. And I don't know. I mean, I guess you're trying to be like portray yourself as a savage and you don't care and you're ruthless and whatnot. But I get it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was kind of a bit off for me. But as far as everything else, then yeah, I mean, I guess the more you speak your mind and you're kind of open, probably the bigger fan base you'll get.
I think he thinks he's coming off like a bad guy, and he doesn't give me the vibe of that. He just gives me a vibe of someone that's just not aware of what comes out of his mouth. Like he's not, really hurting anyone. He does try to make comments like in jest, like he's joking. Like there's nothing malicious on it other than, him saying the killing comment, which I think everyone's like, whoa, let's tone that down a bit. But yeah, he doesn't come off across as a bad guy. And as well, he is coming off real, and that's the key to anyone's real success and marketability outside of what you do inside a cage. Like just look at the Diaz brothers. Like they're authentic them. Like there's no filter on them either in their own way.
No, yeah, agreed. Yeah, so I think I just think everybody should be themselves and don't some people they have they put on these total false personas that aren't them, and usually it doesn't work. But usually what people do is just they'll be themselves, but they'll just enhance it to another level. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what he's doing.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to put the volume up to 12 and 11. And it'll be interesting if he, per se, were to get a title shot. Can you just imagine the trash talking between Adesanya and Sean Strickland if they were to fight, if Adesanya gets past Whittaker this weekend? And I don't think the UFC cares too much what he says. That seems like a very open, free comment or company. But they are owned by Disney and with ESPN. And you wonder if Disney says something, as Sean Strickland keeps going up the rankings.
I sure hope not, dude, because in a day and age of today and all the shit that's going on now, that's the last thing we need. Censorship and silencing people and all that bullshit. So no, you might not like what he says, and that's fine. Then don't like him. Or if you don't want to see him fight, then don't watch him fight, or watch him to hopefully he loses. But yeah, I'm totally against the whole cancel culture bullshit. So I hope nothing like that comes down the line, because that's just, I think they were heading in a bad direction in that sense.
I think the positive for Sean Strickland is he's in the UFC, and they seem very open to kind of letting everyone be however they want to be, whether like Colby Covington expressing political views or what have you, and most people didn't like it, but they let them be that way. And I don't think, like I said, Sean Strickland's not doing anything to hurt people's feelings, or he's just doing it in jest. He's just being himself, which is kind of a lovable kind of fighter in his own way. But that's a bridge, like, obviously maybe that would have to be crossed as time goes on. But as we said, a big win for Sean Strickland. I don't know. This was a pretty unique card as well, Josh. I mean, Nick Maximov in the co-main event spot, a Diaz disciple. He came through with a decision victory. I actually thought he was going to lose the fight. I thought his opponent there in Punahil Soriano did enough damage, but Nick Maximov got the split decision. And, anyone being a Diaz disciple, doing well, obviously that's going to bode well for him. And still so young and talented as Maximov.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's from that because he's very wrestling based, wrestling heavy, and the Diaz's are not that. That's probably their weakest part of their game, to be honest. So yeah, coming from that camp, you would think more boxing, jiu-jitsu like, but no, it was more wrestling, grappling, and yeah, I mean, looked good. It's wrestling was what really won him the fight, and it was a close fight though. You're right.
Yeah, and I think the reason Maximov won is because Soriano did have a lower body injury when he shot in on a takedown in that third round. And, when you're more worried about the injury, obviously the takedown's going to get completed. And, it's a good win for Maximov. You're now 2-0 in the UFC. But how about Shavkat Rakmanov, the native of Kazakhstan in the welterweight division, dominates Carlston Harris, moves, as I said, 15-0. He's the hottest thing to come out of Kazakhstan since Borat. And this is a guy that I think in welterweight right now, with the champion pretty much kind of setting a distance in contenders. Like, we won't see a Masvidal, we won't see a Covington fight him for a very long time, or even a Gilbert Burns. Stephen Thompson's kind of on the back burner now of being a contender for the title. Like, you're looking at Khamzat Chimaev and Shavkat Rakmanov kind of being the new faces of this division, gunning towards a Kamaru Usman, who now just had hand surgery. So Usman will be out a little while. So that gives that time for that division to boil up and get some more contenders going. Yeah.
Anytime, I mean, it's good anytime you have a champ that's dominant like Usman and it's kind of run through everything. It's good to see these new guys emerge, but you don't want to see them rush to the front line too quick, right? Because then you kind of bury a potential title challenger, future champion. So just let him develop inside the UFC and kind of work his way up slowly, kind of build a bigger name each step. And you're gonna potentially could have a Kazakhstani contender.
Man, that would be very insane. But like, this Shavkat Rakmanov guy is just very impressive. Now 3-0 in the UFC. He in his career has never seen a third round. He's either finishing you with a stand-up, with strikes, or he's submitting you. And we're not seeing that third round. This is a very durable guy that dominates his opponents. And as I said, never seen a third round, 15-0. Guy that really broke through. I think a lot of people went, whoa, with how good that performance was.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Anytime you get an undefeated guy that's like that, you're right, the exact same kind of hype as the Chimaev. So yeah, it creates some buzz and some drama, and that's good.
Anytime these fighters with the V as the letter of their last name, it's usually they're going to be really good. Coming from that, part of Europe, whether you're Russia now, Kazakhstan, you're going to be a problem for a lot of people.
All the Russian, Kazakhstan, Dagestan, all those guys, man, they're just born fighting and wrestling and grappling. So they've been doing it so long. They're so comfortable and so well rounded and so strong. So yeah, they do well, man. Taking over the sport.
They are definitely taking over the sport as that Dagestani wrestling, that Sambo style fighting continues to have success. And as well, Josh, this was a pretty solid Saturday night for the Canadians, as the Canadians went 3-1 with the action. Obviously, Malcolm Gordon kicked things off with he got a win, but not the way he probably wanted it, though. A win is a win, as his opponent, Dennis Bondar, has his elbow dislocated. That was nasty. Absolutely. Yeah, that was definitely nasty. But now that's 2 straight wins in a row for Malcolm. Alexis Davis, once again, girl from Niagara Falls, just shuts down an opponent with her wrestling. And there was a moment in that fight, too, where she took an up kick. They didn't take a point away. But are you at the point where maybe we should just not worry about that and let up kicks to downed opponents be a legal strike?
Yeah, of course. I think the stupidest thing ever. Like, why you can kick somebody in the face when they're standing, but with their knee down and you can't up kick. I think it's stupid. Just like I think knees to the head on the ground should be allowed too. And then you get rid of all this, like, he's a down opponent thing, piss off. Don't be in that position then. So yeah, I think there's a lot of rules I think need overhauled, but that would be one of them.
I think we just need to bring all the Ryzen rules into North American MMA. Just bring all those Japanese rules in. Japan, they got it right.
I think so. Yeah. They don't have elbows though, which
they now do in Ryzen.
In Ryzen, they have elbows. Yeah, that's right. And Pride Style, they never did, right? But yeah, I like that. I like just basically make it like as much of a fight as possible without like eye gouging and biting and like nut shots. That's pretty much it. Pulling hair. Like other than that, how about her?
Like, I understand the reasons why we had those rules, especially when trying to sanction the sport across, the U.S. And obviously, oh my God, we'd never seen someone get kicked in the head or kneed in the head when they were down. Like, that's barbaric. But we're at the point now where the sport, it's been around a while. It's sanctioned in all 50 states and pretty much throughout the world, with the exception of a few countries. We got to maybe make some amendments and changes because – if you need to kick someone in the face to kind of get that separation and change the trajectory instead of you just getting mauled on, why not?
Yeah, 100%. And if you have somebody in that front headlock position and they just put their hand down and, make some down opponent, they can't get hit there. Yeah. That's a spot where you could potentially, finish the fight or make them make a bad mistake. And, so there's a lot of things like that where I think they should just let it go. And really it's like people are okay with seeing somebody get kicked in the face on the feet, but they're not okay with somebody kicking the guy in the head when he's on the ground. You know what I mean? So they're both going to hurt the guy. You know what I mean? It's just more of a theatrics and what it looks like. You know what I mean? So that's the only reason why.
Yeah, I hope eventually, I don't know when we can make these changes. I feel like that's go through Nevada or a bigger commission, but that's one way I think we need to make change because especially if the ref in that scenario probably should give a warning for you losing a point as it is illegal and they're not going to do it, then we should just be at the point where, okay, kick them in the face when you're down.
For sure. Yeah. Because especially when it's like, if you're, losing or getting close, you get desperate moves, right? Desperate times call for desperate measures. So if you're going to get a warning, I'll do it all day to get myself out of there. It'll keep me fighting.
Well, it's also too, like these rules have been around for a long period of time. And it's just instant human nature to, if I'm on my back and someone's throwing punches at me, I have to do anything. So if my foot grazes you in the face, necessarily, sure, it may be intentional. Sometimes it may not be intentional, but that foot's going to go there. We can't stop the action for it. Where if we were on the feet, as you said, I could kick you in the face. That's legal. But if I'm on my back, how is that? I don't just. We got to get those Ryzen rules in all of North American MMA, scoring wise too, as well. I think that would be the best
round duration too. 10 minutes.
That's old. Yeah, that's very old school Pride right there. 10 minutes and then 5. Yeah. Bring it back. That'll be very interesting to see what happened. But yeah, you know what? As I said, it was a impressive weekend for the Canadians. Hakeem Dawodu, as we said, he looked really good. Coming back healthy too, and his work to the body was very impressive against Mike Trizano.
Yeah, I mean, Hakeem's his striking's always been top notch. He puts it together well. He finishes combinations with kicks, and he's just so confident out there on his feet. And yeah, man, he's definitely a guy that earlier on, he definitely worked on his anti-wrestling and keeping the fight on the feet, and he's so athletic and explosive, right? He's hard guy to keep down. So yeah, man, that's a big win for him. So it's nice to see him back on that trajectory.
It is definitely nice to see that. It was also nice to see the Canadians just have a strong performance. Tough break for Marc-Andre Barrio going down in just 16 seconds against Chidi Njokuani. But those Njokuanis, they've always been known for being good strikers, and just sometimes you just land that perfect shot right off the hop.
Yeah, it was quick. Just a jab and then overhand caught him right in the temple, dropped him, and he couldn't recover in time.
And obviously, last thing on this card, obviously you saw the Julian Rosa Steven Peterson fight. That second round was insane, just back and forth action where it looked like Rosa's getting finished, and then he comes back, nearly finishes Peterson. Julian Rosa won the fight on the judges' scorecard there with a split decision. And it was a huge night for Julian Erosa as he got $100,000 as his opponent missed weight by 3 pounds. And his opponent, Steven Peterson, hasn't made weight since 2019 as being a fighter in the UFC. So a huge win for Mr. Erosa there, taking a double bonus on home after that insane fight.
Oh, wow. What a loss for Peterson, man. You lose the fight by split decision. You go through an absolute war. So it took years off your life, probably. You missed weight and you lost probably at least 20% of your purse, probably maybe more if it was how much? 3 pounds?
It was 3 pounds, yes.
So you might have lost more than that. And then you'll miss out on a $50K bonus and your opponent gets it. So that sucks for you. I don't feel bad about the weight cut thing, especially when he's missed weight 3 times now, you said? 3?
So he hasn't made weight since 2019. Now he has had some fights fall through and what have you. So this is his second straight time missing weight, but you're in the UFC. It's maybe time to move up a weight class if you can't make 145.
Yeah, 100%. If you do it 2 times in a row, I think there should be like a automatic, like you got to go up a weight class type thing. That's no excuse for that.
Well, plus it's not like they're like, I missed by a pound. They're bad misses too.
2 pounds, that's huge.
Like 3 pounds this time, and then he missed weight by 2.5 pounds. So the weight misses are getting bigger by half a pound each time.
Yeah, it's there's no excuse for that. And it's not like you miscalculated and you're off by 0.5 or something, or you just stopped, and that's a huge miss. So yeah, you're doing something wrong, or you're too big for the weight class, one of the two.
Yeah, I don't think as well for, good for Julian Erosa, $100,000 bonus. I don't think we'd seen that since Tristan Conley and the Michelle Pereira fight back in Vancouver, where he got, I think, $100,000 because they got fight of the night and Pereira missed weight. So all the bonuses went towards Tristan Conley in his UFC debut. So always a lesson, make weight, especially if you're going to be in a fight like that. Like I said, what I said as well is like Peterson, he had a performance where you forget he misses weight until you go to the pocketbook after the fact, where I didn't get any of the bonus money. I just made like my base money.
Not even.
Yeah, not even. Right, not even. You had to give some of that away too.
Yeah, so it was a great night for Rosa there. He cashed in.
Huge night.
Cashed in big.
Huge night. That's one where you definitely just go a little shopping spree Sunday afternoon a little bit, where you got some extra cash to flex. But yeah, that was last Saturday. I thought it was a very interesting card. Like we said, good work for the Canadians, and Sean Strickland makes him really a big benefactor to be in line potentially for a title shot. And we'll look at UFC 271 because that is coming up this weekend. But a little bit of news, Josh, around. Obviously, I'll touch on this as we always do. They are bringing back, once again, The Ultimate Fighter, Season 30. Juliana Pena, Amanda Nunes are the coaches, with heavyweight men and women's flyweight. Obviously, you know what? We knew ESPN probably needed the content, especially with the show premiering in May, and there's no college football, no college basketball anymore. Sometimes you need the content, but I guess the biggest name for the heavyweights is Muhammad Usman, the brother of Kamaru Usman, and spent some time in the PFL. But I don't know, heavyweights and flyweights. Some of these guys, you really think there's better prospects out there on the regional scene that aren't getting an opportunity to be on this show.
So they're doing heavyweight men and flyweight
women flyweight, yeah.
So they're having them in the house together?
Yes, they are.
Oh, wow. Because they told us, my season was the last time they'd ever do that. Surprising. So I guess they're bringing it back. Interesting. That's kind of a weird mix, coaching women's flyweight to men's heavyweight. It's one of the biggest jumps you can make. It'd be hard to kind of coach, with the two. I know they're not going to train together, but it's just very, very different. Obviously size discrepancy and
Yeah, very big size discrepancy. And I don't know. When I look at these heavyweights, there's only really a couple I could see. Like Usman, obviously 7-2, had a stint in the PFL, did lose his last fight. But you know what? You're the brother of the most dominant champion in the sport right now. That also helps you, and he's got potential to be really strong. The other guy I think would be interesting. Obviously, you don't have the names in front of you here, Josh, but Zach Palga, he's a natural light heavyweight, but moving up for this opportunity to heavyweight. A former professional rugby player, was on the practice squad of the Houston Texans in the NFL. So a natural athlete, and really and has gone pretty much the distance in his last two fights that were in those Cage Warriors shows in the U.S. The only thing I just have a question about him is just moving up to 265 and dealing with that raw power.
Yeah, it depends how big he is as a light heavyweight. Does he walk around at 230 pounds or somebody like that? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think these are two divisions that you can move very quickly in them because they're kind of lacking. Not so much the women's flyweight. That's a little bit deeper of a division, but the men's heavyweight, man, it's hard to find heavyweights, man. Hard to find good heavyweights too. You look at Canada. How many do we have? Right? It's just like
we got what? Kai Machado, the BFL champion. We got Christian Larson, who fought and unified, was their heavyweight champion, supposed to fight on that Samurai 2 show in Quebec. And like Dustin Johnson, who's a one championship heavyweight and not even in Canada anymore. He's in a major organization. And that's pretty much it. Like,
yeah.
In Canada, it's like super small. It's like this. It's like a fishbowl.
Yeah. It's 100%. It's hard. It's hard to find good quality heavyweights. So it's if you can make a splash there, the run to the top is shorter for sure than somewhere like a lightweight or bantamweight or welterweight.
I just think some of these heavyweights, other than like I said, Usman, Palga. And you know what? Someone may surprise me, but some of these guys are like, oh, last fight was in boxing, but I'm a heavyweight, so come on in. Like one of the guys on this show, known as Bobby Maximus, 43 years old, and hasn't fought in MMA since 2009. But welcome to the Ultimate Fighter.
So they're making a lot of changes again, man. Because like on this show, I remember they said they weren't going to do the guys and the girls in the house again. But that was Juliana's season, so maybe with her being the coach, they've changed it again. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But also, it was there was an age limit, 35, I think it was, or 36. 35 to 36 was the age limit they wanted, and like minimum of 3 pro fights, winning record. I think that was pretty much it. But yeah, now they're just they need to expand it just to get the guys. I guess it's crazy. That's why I don't know. I enjoyed my time on the Ultimate Fighter. It was a cool experience, but I don't know. I don't think you need to do it anymore. You know what I mean? I guess it's just for, like you said, for TV content and things like that.
Content, yeah. That was going to be my question. And look, this season at least has maybe a little bit more intrigue with the coaches in Pena and Nunes, especially after what we saw in December, where Pena upsets Amanda Nunes, as opposed to Volkanovski and Ortega, who talented fighters. And, you knew the fight would be good, but everything they built to try to do the drama or whatever, the sizzle for the show wasn't really there, and it felt forced. But the fights were great on the last season of The Ultimate Fighter. The fights could still be really good in this season, but I think they're more so focusing on, what's Juliana going to say to Amanda, or what's Amanda going to say? Like, that's the whole selling point of this season, more so than I think the end run of who, gets a trophy at the end of it.
Yeah, most likely, right? The drama between those two. So yeah, I think that's what they're banking on.
Yeah, but 43-year-old heavyweights, I don't know, man. Like, the UFC is always about, we got to get younger, but here we go, like a near 45-year-old guy that hasn't fought MMA since 2009 and was in the UFC back in 2006 is
Who's
getting
that?
a crack at this. His name is Bobby Maximus. I believe he did change his name to that legally, which is just unbelievable. Yeah, so this guy hasn't fought MMA since 2009. Chuck Grigsby, His last fight in the UFC was UFC 62.
62. Holy shit. Oh,
But
man.
bring him on in. Bring
And he's
him
back.
on in.
Wow. What's his MMA record?
5-4 as a professional.
5-4. See, that's what I mean. Like, depending on your weight class, like I said, you have a, like heavyweight 5-4. Like, imagine being 5-4 and trying to go to the UFC at bantamweight or lightweight. Like, get out of here, buddy. Are you kidding me? Not even a chance. Not even in the field of possibilities. But like this, it's different, right? And same with girls. Some of the divisions, if they're lacking, you see a lot of girls with there's a few girls in the UFC that have 500 records, right? Which you never would see for the males. You don't, especially in the more stacked weight classes. So depending on your weight class, you can get a faster push or an easier access to entry.
Well, to me, it says also a little bit like, hey, we're just taking anyone at heavyweight, whereas we know they kind of have a contract dispute with the current heavyweight champion, and anyone that we can get a contender and some building on that can maybe make a run to take that title off Francis Ngannou. Though, I mean, there are some guys that may make a run, especially, the athletic talent that a Palga and a Usman have. But it just feels like more heavyweights because the guy that we have the championship, we don't like him right now.
And this is the downside of so many cards and having such a big roster, where it's everybody's a UFC fighter now, or and I like the fact there's lots of cards for guys to fight and make more money and make a living and things like that, and to watch that. But that it does water it down a bit by bringing guys like this in, or people that you wouldn't. I'm just trying to compare it to a major league sport where it's some guy that plays in the
well, they wouldn't
hockey.
bring a 46-year-old for a tryout to the Leafs or anything like that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you're a world class athlete amongst the elite of the elite in the world, and it just it kind of brings the credibility down a little bit.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. And I've always kind of felt that. But, I mean, that's where you're at, where, you've bought pretty much any competition came through is gone. So you gave them the opportunity to fight, which, I always give credit to the UFC. And there's no real contender to be an excellent spot for number 2. Bellator's great. PFL's great. But they're still so far a gap between the two organizations. And everyone's still trying to, I want to be in the UFC, or, when I interview fighters, it's if you got an opportunity for Bellator or PFL, would you take it? They're yeah, but UFC only. And I'm but there's you can up your value if you go to these places too, if you have success there.
Yeah. And you can actually make some money too.
That.
People just have, like we talked about this, people just have this thought process of oh, I'm just gonna look at McGregor, he's making millions, I can go there and I'm gonna be a superstar, people are gonna want me for everything, I'm gonna be the next big thing, I'm gonna make tons of money. And 90% of the guys don't get that. They don't have that. They barely know who they are, really. You know what I mean? So it's not all about that. I'm not saying Bellator would be the same thing, but I'm just saying there's other options out there other than that, where you can actually go and make a living and rise your stock as a fighter too, and either stay there and continue to make more money, or use that to negotiate to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So there's lots of options like that, but people just got to open up their minds a little bit more and just not see just UFC.
And I think that's just a credit to the UFC, how much they've kind of marketed themselves as the sport, where that's why everyone wants to go there. That's where they all think, oh, I'm on this pay-per-view card, I'm going to make all this money. But it doesn't work out like that, as we continue to find out about fighter pay and all these issues that are being held right now. It's not
very similar to the WWE, AEW right now.
See, but AEW at least is making a run and kind of changing things that, there's opportunity and you can make money. Whereas Bellator would love to be in that spot where free agency is going all over the place and you're vying for talent. Everyone still just wants to be in the UFC, or sure, I'll take a little pay cut, but if I'm still in the UFC, I'm doing great.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a shift. It's not going to happen overnight, though. It's not going to be like
For
one day,
sure.
boom. It's going to be, it's going to take years, really. The UFC has grown so big and have been at it for that much longer and grown that much more, where it's going to take a lot of time. And I think with the right strategic people in place, which I think they have now, and the money behind them, which they do have, and the promotion they have behind them with like a Showtime, I think they can do it. So it'll be interesting to see in the next few years how things kind of go, really.
Well, I think, look, PFL, they're out there with the $1 million side of things. That helps a little bit getting guys. And, Bellator, there, as we've talked about, they've kind of changed their structure. They've made their cards better. And, as we've seen with the graphic, they pay somewhat closely to like an average NFL player would make. They pretty much pay that for an MMA fighter, which is better than, a baseline salary you're getting in the UFC. But, it's just, work, and just people need, like, as you said, need to change their mindset about what the be all end all of the UFC and thinking you're going to be Conor McGregor, because Conor McGregor is an anomaly in MMA that somehow the UFC let him get bigger than the rest of the sport and the name brand of UFC. And I think UFC learned a lesson from that. So they're trying to keep everyone down, put the lid on all that, so no one can really grow and become what they ultimately could and worth their value.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And as somebody like the roster is so big now that it's like, I mean, something for yourself's a bit different. You're like you remember all the names and whatnot, but an average fan, just say, you probably wouldn't be able to name 70% of the roster, and even myself, like I used to watch every card and used to know every guy that's fighting, and because I was so into it. Now, like I couldn't. I go to some gyms and I start training with the guys, and like, oh, this guy's in the UFC. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. What's your name? You know what I mean? So that's just how it is now. There's just so many, and it's hard to. And guys are coming in and out so fast.
Oh man, I went through that too, where if you take like a little break from watching this sport and how much it had grown, it was like a whole new sport to me with whole new people, which in some aspects is good, but you want a little familiarity and get to know everyone. I think that was part of the success of the boom of the UFC in the late 2000s going to the early 2010s is you could put on a pay-per-view or a fight night and you knew everyone and their past fights and everything. And that kind of made it, fun and accessible, and why you could spend and split the pay-per-views with your buddies. And now it's, for a casual sport fan, they're just watching with, for betting on it, or the aspect of just hanging out, having a beer, or hoping for a big knockout. Like that's literally the reason some of these people are watching the sport.
Probably most, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's like a horse race. Yeah. I'll put, 20 on, a cupcake ice cream over there. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how it is. And, yeah, it's definitely shifted anyways for me, for sure. Like I used to, like we said, I used to be able to name everybody. And I think you had a little bit more individual character then too, in the UFC. You had guys that had their personas. It was almost like it came from the WWE type style, that the pro wrestling angle, where it wasn't over the top that way, but it was like, this guy was this way. He comes from this camp. He always wore these shorts when he fought. He was sponsored by this brand, and you always put those together, and you don't have that anymore with the not Reebok, Venom now.
But that's part of it too. What killed the individuality of it, like Chuck Liddell couldn't make it in the UFC to where he's at today. You knew Chuck Liddell from the mohawk and the blue shorts with the icebergs on the top of the trucks. Like you can't be like that. Or Tito Ortiz couldn't be what he once was if you were breaking into the sport today, because you have to wear this color. You have to wear these gray or black shorts. And now, like, remember when the Reebok deal was going on? It's like, wow, they've added color. Like someone can get green shorts now. That's not a champion. Like, wow, what? Like that was kind of the start of a certain decline in the UFC and trying to maybe reach a casual and turn them into a diehard.
Yeah. I mean, I was always against that, from the beginning. Like I like having, and I like having it in the Bellator where we can do that still, where I can have sponsors. You can wear whatever you want, and you can make extra money there. But yeah, that's just my gripes in common modern day MMA, right? But what are you gonna do?
Well, yes. I mean, I will give Bellator and PFL credit where they let you kind of have that personality, come to the cage with your banners still. Like I don't understand the hatred of the banners because it made it look like NASCAR. Have you seen a UFC octagon cage? It literally looks like a NASCAR right now.
It's full of it. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's fine for them to do that, but the fighter can't do the same. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that trying to hold those fighters down. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of crazy how much this sport has changed, and in some aspects of the UFC continues to make record-setting profits. It does hurt the fighter, and that's just part of hurting the fighter in the long run. You know, individuality and no sponsorship money that you can't showcase and what have you. But everyone wants to still be there in the UFC.
Well, when I mean, I still love like watching the UFC. I'm not. There's things that they do that I don't like, right? And as a fighter, I'm going to go against it for sure. But I still, there's still an awesome organization to watch, and they put on great fights, and they have a great roster. So, and I'm still a fan, obviously, and I always will be. But yeah, there are some things that I think should be changed for sure.
And as the years progress, it's just like how much that company seems maybe not the most like fun to be around or anything like that, or to be a part of.
Everything gets corporate, and the corporate just ruins everything, dude.
Corporations, since Vince McMahon and his corporation stable, that was a sign that corporations were bad news bears for a lot of people. Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, like I said, like you said, I'm a big fan of UFC. I love the sport. I love the fighters that are in it. But if you're coming up, I just think maybe as well, open your mind, broaden your horizons. There's other options out there for you to do your craft and get paid at the end of it as well.
Yeah, and really, that's you can't live off of medals and trophies and T-shirts. I mean, you gotta at some point you gotta make money, right? So
exactly. Just want to touch on one thing before we move on to UFC 271, Josh. The Bantamweight rankings that came out for Bellator. This was a huge talking point on social media. I have no idea what these rankings do every time they come out. Like, these are the most bizarre rankings of all time. Like, you somehow have risen a spot, you're 7th, ahead of the former champion in Horiguchi. I don't know how you lose a title and you drop all the way, like, almost out of the top 10. These rankings are just awkward.
Well, I've always said rankings are stupid and they don't really mean anything. But yeah, as far as this, it doesn't make any sense because they did a rankings update after my fight, and I was ranked number 7, and I won, and I dropped to 8 somehow.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and then now all of a sudden they redo this in January or February, and I haven't fought since the last fight, which is only a month or so ago, and I've rose back to 7, and now Horiguchi's back at 8. And then I seen Stotts, who's undefeated, but went from I think number 2 spot to number 3, and then Mix went up 1, but he's only won 2 since that. So it doesn't really make any sense at all. Yeah, it really doesn't.
I know they do some weird formula or whatever, but the rankings have not worked at all for Bellator. These have been the most confusing and unlogical rankings in any division, really, overall. Like, nothing makes sense, but like this Bantamweight division especially, like, it makes no sense. Like, how in the world does Stotts, who's pretty much like a number 1 contender, drop, and Higo is just still there? Like, Gallagher just lost. Like, technically with your win, shouldn't you be ahead of, like, what is going on?
Right. And also, if I'm ranked number 7, I should be in the tournament.
Yes. Yeah,
or the Grand Prix. You know what I mean? If I'm ahead of Horiguchi, then why am I not in the Grand Prix? So it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, I don't also know how a guy that's champion and pretty much undefeated, other than like a spinning back elbow in his time in Bellator, drop all the way almost out of the top 10. Like, that doesn't make any sense either.
Who's that?
Horiguchi.
Oh, Horiguchi. Yeah. I don't understand how you went from, like, he was the champion. I understand that, but he comes back in and he's below.
He's below Higo. He's below
below Gallagher.
Yes.
Like
below yourself.
Below myself. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's just, I don't know. It doesn't.
I really think
Hugo
if
hasn't made weight in the last 2 fights either. So that was another thing. I don't understand why he's in the bantamweight tournament. And if he comes in overweight, man, like, well, then slide me in there. But yeah, like if you haven't missed weight, and he's had a history of missing weight numerous times, so it's like you move up to 45, then, bro.
dude, it's just been such a nightmare for how these are done and calculated, and they really just honestly, if Bellator just maybe scrap the rankings. I know maybe you're doing it for the fact that UFC has rankings and whatever. UFC only did it for the fact that they got on Fox. Like Bellator got rid of these rankings, I don't think anyone would be upset.
I just think you get rid of all rankings in general, really, across the board. What do they do? Really, you don't really usually follow them, not really. So it's just there.
Especially in a sport like MMA where the whole goal is to make money with fights. Like logic never comes into these things.
No, that's what I mean. So then you got your like number 6 guy fighting for the title over your,
over 5 other contenders, right?
Yeah, so it never really makes sense. It's more of a marketing thing to say, oh, this is the number 3 ranked guy in the world, or you know what I mean. So that's really the only real.
It is crazy how much certain fighters buy into that, though, with their ranking statuses.
Yeah,
some of them do. Some of them are like, "Hey, I'm number 3 in the world. I'm working my way up. It's my rank." I'm like, if someone had like 2 spin wheel kick knockouts, they just jump you because they try to put that exciting fighter for a title over you doing it, the right way. But that's just the name of the game. They're trying to sell tickets and pay-per-views and or live events, whatever, trying to sell the product over just doing it the right way. I don't know. We've said this before many times. Rankings are dumb.
Yeah, 100%.
Rankings are dumb. So as we move on here and wind things down, Josh, we got ourselves a pay-per-view, as we said, UFC 271. Israel Adesanya takes on Robert Whittaker in a rematch for the middleweight championship. Look, Robert Whittaker, he's really turned it on since he lost that fight to Israel Adesanya back in October of 2019. 3 straight decision victories, but over some real tough, durable guys in Darren Till, Jared Cannanier, and Kelvin Gastelum, and it's put Whittaker back in the spot. And a guy that was one of those guys that needed a break, needed to recharge, and was very open about that. And I commend him for that.
Yeah, I feel him there. I've had that before, where it's just like anything, man. Too much of it, you get a bit sick of it, and you need a break. You get burnt out a little bit, so you got to know when to take that time off and kind of recharge your battery, and just to kind of, when you're away from something, you miss it and you crave it, and you get the hunger again. And so it's good to do that sometimes, periodically, just to give yourself that loss of it, just to get it back. But yeah, I love watching Whittaker fight. I mean, Adesanya, one of probably the best striker in the UFC right now, or if not one of them. Yeah, it's a tough match. I'm really hoping Whittaker pulls it off. I'm a big fan. I think he's a hell of a fighter, very well-rounded, nice guy too. He seems like a good dude. And Adesanya, I mean, he's very skilled. I just always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Never met him, so I don't know him. Probably a nice guy, but yeah, I would like to see Whittaker win it back, change it up, and then we get a trilogy out of it.
It'd be a great story for sure for Robert Whittaker to, come back and avenge like pretty much one of his true beatdowns that he's had in the UFC against, as you said, arguably one of the best strikers in all of MMA. But I think the one thing we've determined is, look, Adesanya thought he was going to try to be a double champion. That didn't work out last year, going up to light heavyweight, kind of, faded towards the end against Jan Blachowicz. But at middleweight, this is his division. He's evolved as a fighter, really showcased some good groundwork in that Marvin Vettori fight. It'll just be interesting what adjustments they make, because the rematch always makes us an interesting fight where everyone's gotten a little bit better since the last time they fight. And for Whittaker as well, this is going away like a legacy fight for him.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to be a little bit more wrestling heavy. Watching, I know Blachowicz is a much bigger guy. So carrying that weight's going to fatigue you for sure more than carrying a middleweight. But if you can utilize just, even the first round or two, just like make it kind of boring, make him grinding, put him on the cage, make him carry your weight, really just try to wear his arms down and just kind of grind him for the first little bit and trying to take him into deep waters where he can't utilize his striking and get in a rhythm. We'll see if he does it, or if he, Adesanya is going to be worried to that, maybe fake the shots and come up with your hands a little bit more, and then maybe go back down to the wrestling game. So yeah, it's interesting, man. It's a good rematch. I'm excited to watch that one.
If you had to, make a prediction here, Josh, what would your prediction be?
Let's go. Tough call, man. I'll follow with my heart wants here. I'll go Whittaker.
Whittaker decision, or does he actually finish Mr. Adesanya?
I think I'm going to go Whittaker decision. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say 48-47, 3 rounds of 2.
Close fight. Yeah. I can definitely see that being a possibility. I just think Adesanya at this weight class, having more time to prepare, getting ready, because this fight was supposed to happen a little while ago, or there were some contract issues, what have you, with this fight. I think that helps him in the long run. I think if anything, he gets a finish in the 4th round and retains his title. I think right now he's on that Anderson Silva level of what he's been able to do at middleweight, and it's going to be a real special guy that beats him. I mean, as I said, Blachowicz showcased a game plan, but it's a little different when you're at your natural element at your weight class.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. But with the exception of the weight, which is a big factor, and especially going those 2 weight classes, 20 pounds it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of showcasing the way to kind of do it. What's his name wasn't able to, the guy he fought last time.
Oh, Marvin Vettori.
Yeah. But I think Whittaker's a little bit more explosive, more better athlete, a little bit more well-rounded, I believe. So maybe he can put it into play.
Well, you know what I can expect and I think we both can agree on this. This should be a hell of a fight between 2 of the best middleweights in the world that are surging right now too. Whittaker in the first fight, he was coming off injuries, or this fight getting pulled at the last second. He's now healthy, both physically and mentally. So we should see the best Robert Whittaker against one of the best fighters in the world right now.
Yeah, 100%. And even in that first fight, he was doing it pretty well. It wasn't like it was getting his ass kicked the whole time. He got caught in an exchange where he actually hit Adesanya. But Adesanya, he's so good at moving with shots and clipped him coming in and finished him. I think it was a left hook, I believe, if I can remember. But yeah, it was man, these guys are both super solid. So no matter what, it should make for a hell of a fight.
The other middleweight bout on this card, I think, is going to be also a hell of a fight as well. Jared Cannanier, Derek Brunson. I mean, Jared Cannanier, a guy who, he's lost to Robert Whittaker, but he picked up a pretty solid win against Kelvin Gastelum. He believes in the power of his crystals that he carries, so I'm sure they'll be on hand to give him some positive energy. But, he's fighting a guy in Derek Brunson who, just, a couple of years ago, we kind of thought was done as like an elite contender or a guy that could really make a run at middleweight. Lost 2 in a row to Jacare Souza, and has a loss to Anderson Silva when Anderson's getting past his prime, and then Adesanya. And then after the Adesanya fight, he's gone on a 5 fight winning streak, and finished Darren Till when a lot of people didn't think he could finish Darren Till.
Yeah, hey man, resurgence. People are quick to write people off when they go on slumps, but the funny thing about slumps, they always come to an end. You know what I mean? You can only go up from there. So, if you have the right mindset, I think you can, build yourself back no matter how big of it is. So, yeah, that's cool. It's good to see a nice resurgence, especially there in the middleweight division where for a little while there it was kind of getting shallow. To see somebody come back and make themselves a name again. That's big. And this is a good match. I think it's going to be one where, look, probably the wrestling versus striking more so. Cannanier probably going to try and keep him the feet, and Brunson's going to look to mix it up and probably mix up his wrestling to get the win.
I think as well with Brunson's resurgence, it goes to show how much MMA, while it's an individual in the cage doing it, how much MMA is a team game. He moved to Sanford MMA and became a new person again, reinvigorated himself, found the love for the sport again. And I think that's obviously something to go and be said for. Sometimes the change in where you train and who you're training with, changes you and put Brunson really in this position.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I experienced that. You know what I mean? Even if you have a great coach and great team, I encourage people to go train other places and be somewhere new, and put yourself kind of out of your comfort zone, because I think that's where you're going to grow the most. I mean, training with people you don't know, training under coaches you don't know, learning new things, new techniques, and also sometimes when you train with the same people day in day out, they pick up on your style, your tricks, your traps, everything like that, and then things don't work anymore. And then you used to kind of lose confidence. But then you go at a new place and you oh shit, this stuff works. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important, and I think that's you've seen that many times where guys go to a different camp and then they're like a different person. So yeah, change is good sometimes.
And plus, as well, he's kind of developed this persona, blonde Brunson. And you know what? It's a gimmick that he's kind of working with himself. And it's, caught a little bit of the attention of the MMA fans out there. You know what? Do whatever you can.
Wesley Snipes?
Demolition Man, natural Butch Reed circa 1987 WWF. Whatever he's done is working. Sometimes you also need that as well, where, you do a little thing for yourself and you buy into it.
Hey man, it's been mentally proven that, creating a persona in your mind and actually kind of becoming that person when you go to compete or whatever, eventually become that person. And it's just like putting on a poker face, but it's the same type of thing. So maybe that worked for him, and puts on the blonde hair, and he's now the warrior type, so whatever works for him.
What's your persona when you get in the cage, Josh?
Shit,
I don't know, man. Do you put one on? Because you can't be the gentleman in there.
No, not really. I mean, not really. No, I wouldn't say I put on a persona. I just I know when to mentally flip my switch and I gear myself. I say this next 15 minutes, it's fucking go time, and literally I will put myself through hell to get the win, and then after I can enjoy it. But I know for that 15 minutes, I'm a different person.
All right. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll come up with a name for your gimmick or something like that you can put on.
Go from the gentleman to the violent gentleman.
Okay, there we go. The violent gentleman. Yes.
Yeah.
Violent. Yes. Violently gentleman or gentlemanly violent as you do tend to get. But sometimes you need to do that. Also on this card, Josh, co-main event show is in Houston. So of course we need Derrick Lewis on the card taking on Tai Tuivasa, the master of the Shui, but a guy that's, really he himself in Tuivasa has turned a corner as he's now on a 4-fight win streak, looks to make it 5. Lewis, the last time he fought in the UFC was in his hometown for that interim heavyweight title. He has openly said that was too much pressure on him, but maybe the co-main event spot is a little less pressure, and he just gets to go out there and, try to knock a dude out as he did to close out 2021 in his last fight up against Chris Daukaus.
That's the one. Yeah, I was thinking he just had a fight recently. Yeah. That's a good one, man. That's a banger, right? Obviously, somebody's going to get knocked out in that one. I think if I had to pick, I'm going to go with Lewis. I think Lewis will catch him and finish him most likely first or second round.
I think Lewis wins and really makes this heavyweight division that much more interesting, because the only loss Lewis has had was an interim title fight against, a guy that's probably going to be a heavyweight champion and just fought for a heavyweight title, one down the line and Cyril Gane. And, UFC loves Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis, willingly open company man. Would not be surprised if later this year, Derrick Lewis somehow miraculously finds himself fighting for a heavyweight title again.
It's possible, man. It's possible. Like I said, heavyweights, the path it's quicker. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Derrick Lewis, man. I like watching him fight. He's hilarious.
He is that. He is at least very entertaining as a character. Kyler Phillips on the pay-per-view as well, and the Bantamweight division against Marcelo Rojo, a Combate Americas veteran, has had a couple fights in the UFC, known to do his his Raptor celebration after he wins fights. I don't know if you've seen that, Josh. Talking about a gimmick. Yeah, no, he literally just goes like that around the cage, acting like a legit dinosaur.
Okay.
But his opponent, though, Kyler Phillips, this is a really talented guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know who he was until he fought Song and he beat Song. And then I was like, oh, shit, man. Anybody beat Song is legit. So,
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this card, also like some Australians on there, some of those guys that train with Israel Adesanya at City Kickboxing, Carlos Ulberg, who is coming off a pretty rough loss in his last fight against Kennedy and Juku, where he was winning the fight and then kind of got caught by a couple good combinations and just someone putting the pressure on him, and then Juku against Fabio Charant. So I don't know. I mean, this card's obviously set around the title fight, and I think the co-main event should do quite well. Also on this card, Josh, Andre Arlovsky. That guy just never can just find a way to go away. A true OG, back when, former UFC heavyweight champion. He's fought everyone and anyone in the UFC, and he has been back in the UFC since 2014. So like 8 years he's been back and still going and still winning fights.
So winning, man. Andre, he's the man. I love that guy. I remember watching him back in, I don't even know how old I was. But yeah, dude, he's still there. He's still competing. He still loves it, and he's still getting wins. So all the power to him.
Yes, and also fresh off some appearances on AEW Dynamite a couple months ago. So got to see Andre Arlovsky showcase his professional wrestling chops, but obviously a very tough, durable guy, and one of those guys from now ATT and on a 2-fight win streak and looking to come away with his first finish in the UFC. Oh man, when last has this guy had a finish? He has not had a finish since the Travis Brown fight in May 2015.
7 years.
But 7 years or so. But you know what? Can get it done. Can Andre Arlovsky. But yeah, that's the card. You know what? The only thing about this card that is unfortunate is it's the night before the Super Bowl. Remember when these cards were like really felt like a big deal the night before a Super Bowl? Like especially the Carlos Condit Nick Diaz fight when that happened. Like that to me felt way bigger than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was on the Super Bowl. I was more just focused on the Carlos Condit Nick Diaz fight.
So was I, but the game the night before was like one of the best Super Bowls of all time. But still, I was like, man, Carlos Condit, Nick Diaz. I just remember the buzz of that was equal to the second Patriots Giant Super Bowl.
Cool. Dude, I will watch the Super Bowl, and I do like football. I enjoy it, but I could not name, who won this year or that year. I had no idea.
We'll change that. That's the goal of the show now going forward, is getting you to like other football as well.
I like it. I like it. I just don't follow it as much. That's all.
We'll change that. We'll make that a thing where you get, really into it and make it a full weekend of craziness and,
have a
get
3-year-old in your life. And then
I know. I was going to say, getting a break from the Wiggles.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up here for this week. We did go a little bit into overtime, so apologies for that, Josh. But you know what? We'll be back next week to break down all the happenings and all the news going on in the realm of mixed martial arts. So for my broadcast partner, the gentleman Josh Hill, I'm Jason Hagholm. Peace out, and we'll see you all next week.